God knows how close he really was, probably had binoculars, and said to the Japanese people, don't worry, we're going to rebuild Fukushima Daiichi and get it back online. What a lunatic.
Yes. We should hold them to that promise. We should make them break ground there at reactor.
Yeah, fix
reactor
it.
1 and 2.
Fix it, Immelt. Fix it.
Yeah. Yeah, we should make him keep his promise. Go back there and rebuild reactor 1 and 2. Let's see him do it. Okay, let's see the geniuses of nuclear businesses address that problem. They all put their heads together in the world, and they walked away from Fukushima. That's what they've done. They've all walked, okay, and they want to build new plants instead and ignore the fact they can't deal with They can't deal with Chernobyl. They can't deal with Fukushima. And we're just sitting around here waiting for the third one to take out the Northern Hemisphere for good and end all human life on Earth, both hemispheres. That's what we're waiting for. These maniacs, they really are murderous maniacs is what they are.
Yeah.
And, and this is Dana's problem. We call these guys murderous maniacs who have to be brought to justice for their crimes against the environment, against humanity.
Yeah.
And they send the police after you. I mean, this is ridiculous. We're living in a dark age. This is a dark age when this kind of stuff happens. There's
look, dark age.
Any of this.
Absolute dark age. Look at the Middle East, for God's sakes.
Barbarism, nuclear barbarism is what we're talking about.
Look at the Middle East. That's the dark ages, if there ever were any.
Yeah.
Come on, this is all nuts. It's absolutely crazy. Dana, come on in here.
Yeah, that was awesome. Thank you, folks. That's what I mean, though. Anybody who's rational could look at this and say, with a whole heart and be honest about it, that this is not a game and that the death of the Pacific Ocean is not something that is going to be tolerated. And so the posturing they're doing now is what, I wonder, a last desperate cash grab? Is it it's a last desperate something, because within 1 year it's all in the bag. You can't hide it any longer. It just can't be hid any longer. So this is all posturing, I guess, is the way I see it. Yeah. Look, like you were talking about earlier, the organic side it is, that sustains all life. And that we replaced it all with genetically modified critters.
Yeah.
And look what we got done now. And now nuclear on top of us. And it's only a handful of people making these decisions. It's
isn't
really
it amazing?
And getting away
really
with this.
Amazing. Yeah. A handful of people.
I'm not withdrawing any of my comments about it, period. I stand by everything I've ever said. And I'll continue to do that. And the same as you guys. Because this has gone crazy. That they want to now claim that this stuff is somehow magically carbon-free. Yoshi just eviscerated that one, and so did you over and over and over. And so why can't anybody else have a rational decision about this?
Where has, I have another question for both of you. Really, where has the coverage, what little we had, of Fukushima gone? I never see it anywhere.
None, not even in Japan. In fact, Jeff, I missed the last show because I was in Japan, and as usual, my phone was cut off. Didn't get any, overseas calls were blocked. So the whole security apparatus is there, but they're doing nothing about Fukushima. I was measuring the water. I was measuring, in fact, the watershed around Tokyo's water supply, Lake Tama, large dam.
Oh, yeah.
Of course, double the safety limit all around. They're trying to build new sluices or something. I guess they're trying to drain some of the silt because the winter wind churns up the silt. So all the stuff that fell into the watershed from Fukushima occasionally gets all, in the turbulence of the water, gets all dredged up and goes to every household in Tokyo, into their water supply, their drinking water,
Absolutely. The bottom line is simple. Tokyo should have been evacuated.
It should still be evacuated.
Yes.
It should have been. It should be. They should pull out 70 million people out of northern Japan. It is just too radioactive to survive. Just a couple hours up there. Once again, radiation burn on the arm. You're itchy all over for days after that. Of course, eyes are burning and all that. You see a lot of people with all kinds of problems in Tokyo, especially under their eyes. They're like allergies. But obviously, this is from radiation, the radioactive isotopes in the water that they're exposed to. People are dying. The city is a dying city. People there know that. I've talked to people. They know situation horrible. There's nothing they can do. They can't move out. They're stuck. And the government is, instead trying to, intervene overseas and all that. Massive security alert in Tokyo, by the way. The Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, former Prime Minister Taira, they befriended these Uyghurs from China and the Turks, the Grey Wolves from Turkey. And there's lots of Turkish terrorists living all across Japan. In fact,
oh, really?
A huge mosque in Nagoya. Oh, yeah, these guys have patronized them since 1927. They were part of the Greater East Co-Prosperity Movement run by Japanese military intelligence, okay?
Yeah.
For 90 years now.
Yeah.
And so they gave these guys money, training, and God knows what else they've given them. And now there's not enough police in Tokyo because, the city where the huge crowds congregate. Remember the Tokyo subway gassing? 20,000 people were felled that morning, were knocked out by gas that morning.
20,000. Did you say 20,000?
20,000 people were affected by gas that morning. Most of them were knocked down to their, on their flat on their backs and had to be dragged out of the subways. Okay? Shinzo Abe, by the way, was involved with that group all along with the weapon smuggling, which was why the place was gassed. Okay? Yeah. So we got a terrorist prime minister, a clear-cut sponsor of terrorism. But now, just like George Bush and Dick Cheney, the terrorists are turning against Japan, and they can't protect the capital. So you see in a few select places, highly visible, 2 police vans packed with special forces guys, but they can't cover everywhere else. In other words, the police, I guess they're pretty smart. They decided if they spread themselves thin, you have 2 cops at every major corner. Instead, they try to concentrate so they're visible with their buses. But it's not going to fool the professional hitmen that are coming over. And I noticed a lot of Arabs inside Japan that really, at the beginning of winter, I was wondering what all these Arabs and also, they're these Middle East looking guys speaking Spanish. They're obviously Arabs from Spain. What are they doing all across Japan? They're casing the place out for a massive attack against the Japanese public. And Shinzo Abe, of course, he might actually benefit from that. Maybe he's going to encourage them to attack, so that he has grounds for war. Just like George Bush, 9/11, the whole thing, that whole standard program.
I got it.
That these neocons have imposed, the pro-Zionist neocons, the whole operation. So Tokyo, people in Japan are really living. Everyone knows there's this imminent threat. I mean, they're being hit from every side by their own government. This is the ruling party. I mean, this is just like 9/11.
Wow.
Dana, go ahead.
Yeah, Japan has lost the battle. And politicians, just a handful of them, wrecked it for every other person, and then the entire planet on top of that. The nuclear industry has proliferated out bananas and potato chips and walking in sunshine to the point you can't have a conversation with anybody. So they've been at it a very long time, and now it's coming down to this. I think over this year, in less than a year hopefully, but over this year, that majority of the planet is going to be wide awake. I really truly believe that, because we can't hide the depth of the Pacific any longer. The mass die-offs are the end of it. That's the death throes of the Pacific Ocean. We documented everything. And so I think these governments are just 1 year away from utter chaos. And it doesn't have to be utter chaos. It really doesn't. I mean, it's time to admit it. At what point are we going to admit it? At some point we're going to have to. And so when are we going to admit it?
I guess maybe with our dying breath.
I think sooner than that, I hope, because I truly believe that, even though I don't truly believe, I suppose, but I hopefully truly believe that this planet is going to wake up in a good way, and that we'll fight for something, whatever we can find to remain with. But this is an extinction event, like you started to show off with. There's no doubt about it. There's no comparison. I mean, a war couldn't bring this onto us. Conflict, we don't think could bring this. We never dreamt could, I should say, bring this onto us.
Right.
There's nothing we ever dreamt could do this to us. This was supposed to be the last refuge in case it all went bad, in case everybody went to war, we should have been able to go up and hide in those 26,000 islands, for instance. And now that's just incredibly void of all life. And that the attacks upon everybody, particularly me, are based upon keeping it hid away for just a little tiny bit longer. Whatever their master plan is, I don't know, but it's not going to work. There's no way it can work. People are too intelligent as they wake up, and they're like yourselves to become indignant. And we see that all the time. We just don't get that opportunity. And like you said earlier, it was buried in the news. You don't hear about it. And so it's just these shows like this here that's keeping it afloat. But the death of the Pacific...
We're it, Dana. We're it. There's nobody else doing it.
There is not, no. The death of the Pacific means all these streams are going to be extremely popular, and a lot of people will be grateful to have that. What is able to console you when there's something major happening is it's understanding it. When you can understand it or comprehend it, that helps you to deal with it. When you can't understand it, and when you're lied to and deceived extensively, and then all of a sudden it can't be denied anymore. This is MK Ultra and overdrive against the entire population, and it doesn't need to be that way. We can't turn back the clock, but we can plot the future.
Yeah,
and we have charts.
Yeah,
we have 4,300 peer-reviewed studies every day.
Look at the homepage. Look at the one picture at the top of Rense. Look at the picture at the top of Rense.
Yeah, you can.
Dana's picture before and after. Look at the picture. Understand that's what's being done to the entire West Coast.
It's shocking.
All the way up to Alaska and the Gulf. All the way.
Yeah, it's all missing. And Yoshi knows himself. The seafood was such a treasure. And now, Yoshi, you don't eat seafood no more, you know?
Well, the sushi restaurants are doing great business in L.A. and San Francisco, I understand. Go ahead.
They are. People are very, very foolish. I mean, they're trying to sell beef to foreigners at all the airports in Japan. It's really sickening to see this attempt to mass poison people with radiation from Fukushima long after the meltdown. They're now trying to poison people in other ways. This is really deliberate murder. You know, it's no longer manslaughter. It's murder. It's knowing murder. Now, to follow up on Dana's comment about ignorance, now, one of the things they do is they don't tell us all the facts, of course. And it turns out that the main scientists for the Canadian and U.S. government, the team, you know, Ken Buessler and Jay Cullen. Well, we looked into their background a little bit more. It was very hidden. Jay Cullen, of course, was connected. He met Buessler at the Woods Hole Institute. So they did know each other, you know, long before, before, for a long time. So Buessler basically handpicked him. Buessler tied in. His background sort of disappears before Fukushima. The last we know is he was working with the Naval Research Lab after Fukushima to so-called investigate contamination in the Pacific after the USS Ronald Reagan was massively hitting a soldier, and the sailors sued the U.S. government. So the Navy Research Lab tried to cover up for the Navy and put down its own soldiers, many of whom are dying now. Just an outrage, a crime against American citizens and the bravest and the best of American citizens.
Correct.
But we found out a little bit more about Jay Cullen. And this is what, of course, Dana's not allowed to talk about this, but I am, since I'm not facing trial in Canadian court yet. Jay's hometown is Peterborough, Ontario. Right. And it turns out that the main employer, the main industry of Peterborough is a uranium fuel rod assembly plant. Plant, run by General Electric Hitachi. The very same people who built reactors 1 and 2 at Fukushima. Well, isn't that an odd coincidence?
Shocker.
Professor Cullen comes from a company town run by GE Hitachi, the nuclear power. And we've got to ask, does Canada have a foreign agent law like the U.S. does? If you represent in the United States, there's a foreign agent registration law. If you represent a foreign government or an entity,